Welcome into the triple option. Paul, Catalina, and Garrett Ross. No, Garrett is not in a shed right now. I know it looks like that because he's got a folding table behind him. But I mean, it doesn't even look like that, but that's what it is. It's a table. But it does look like you're like in a shed.
Yes.
Yeah. You are definitely not in a shed. I would like that pointed out to everybody. You are not in a shed. You are, in fact, just around the corner. Mm-hmm. Jack and I came here yesterday, and we, and by we, I mean mostly Jack.
Of course.
Mostly Jack. Like, it was like 75-25. Jack. The 25% that I provided was Jack says, Paul, do this, and I did that thing. So it was nice to not, like, sometimes you're a leader in a situation, sometimes you're a follower. The best leaders know when to follow. Mm-hmm. I learned that at a young age, so I just did what Jack told me to do, and we have moved you into the production nook.
Correct.
Like a breakfast nook without eggs.
It's a start. This is the first real, I think this might be the furthest I've ever produced away from y'all.
Yeah.
Which is weird to say and think about.
Yeah.
It's a start to having my own production room. I like it, man. It's cozy. It's cool. And then, I don't have to see things.
Yeah. I mean, like, here's the thing. We can, and I'm sure you've seen this on the show, get frantic and be like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Yeah. And then, like, Garrett sees it, but he's also, like, looking over a computer at us. And
there's a lot that goes on over here.
So then if he looks over the computer, then the thing he's supposed to see on the monitor, he's not looking at that. Here we've got him set up where you are not. I can tell everybody, you are not looking at my actual face. You're looking at my face on a monitor.
Correct.
Yeah. So I know that's neither here nor there, but we'd like to celebrate these big times with, we've waited and been patient to be able to do this. And there are some other things going to happen to the studio that we're excited about as well. Jack and I also were able to destroy your old production desk. And
yes.
I'm sorry that you were not here for that, to have that office space type moment for that big piece of crap.
I just need to know, like, how many chunks did it take? What was the process of tearing this down? What all did I miss out on?
All right. Bring Jack in because he is back there in the nook with you.
Here comes Jack.
So there was a television in the front of it because it used to be out at the tailgate area, and it was like the pregame show desk, the Sikkim pregame show desk before we came along.
Right.
And so that was the weird structural part of it that we didn't know how it was, like, in there. But
yeah,
Jack,
that thing was like screwed in and then covered up with another board and then screwed in again. It was weird. I think we ended up taking out in like 7-8 pieces, and at one point I had to like kick the front off of it.
Yeah.
I had to get down on the floor, hold on to the top, and kick the front off of it, and the rest nearly fell apart on top of it.
Yeah, I was holding it and, like, pulling, like, one hand holding it. With my right hand, I'm pulling out, like, what Jack is kicking. And then I was like, is this going to fall on you? He's like, yeah, if you let go. In a second, he's like, I can get out. And so he gets out, and then it sat wonky for a minute, and I went and threw a part away, and then when I came back in, he had already had it taken apart. But I'm sure there was a catharsis there for Jack.
Oh, yeah, I very much enjoyed kicking the crap out of that desk.
It was a heavy bitch too. I'll tell you that right now. Like, overall, it was heavy. Like,
and there goes our monetization.
I think it took us three trips to get to the dumpster, but it's over now. And I appreciated focusing on something that was not football. Because let me tell you about my sports weekend.
Yeah, how'd that go, Paul?
This is me as a fan. Me as a fan this weekend. A sports fan in general. The Red Sox and Yankees played. The Yankees are very much in the playoffs. The Red Sox are fading fast. Now, they did win a game or two, and it was fine. But mostly I had to watch the Yankees win games against the Red Sox, which always sucks to me. Then I left here. I sadly drove home. I started watching Florida State and Memphis, and then by halftime, I was into the sorrow drinking because that's my life now. But I had a lovely 12-year-old Scotch and another 12-year-old Irish whiskey that were delicious and helped me make the sadness go away. And then yesterday, while we were here, I had the NFL ticket on all these TVs, but the Cowboys got absolutely torn apart and made into gumbo by the Saints. Like that was like they showed up with the roux already ready, and we're just waiting for the ingredients, and it was basically the Cowboys defense.
So I didn't see the game, but as scrolling, I was keeping up with it on social media, and the one thing I did notice after the game was I don't know if you saw this. There were probably a good 100 at least Saints fans outside of Jerry World, like putting on a concert, like they were on Bourbon Street, and it was so awesome.
Well, it got really loud in there with Who Dat Nation. It was crazy. Oh, thank you. Aberfieldy has a nice 12-year-old scotch. Thank you, Barry Crawford. I appreciate that. But it was a big weekend. I'm going to start off by now, look, I understand that Oklahoma State was not exactly playing world beaters on Saturday, but I have said a great many disparaging things about Alan Bowman.
Yeah.
And by disparaging, I just mean that he's an average quarterback.
He is.
He was dealing the other day. Now, a lot of it was his receivers like catching a pass, making a move, and just going. But he threw 4 touchdown passes the other day. He was fantastic. So to Barry Crawford and to Wet Blanket and to all of the Poke Patrol, all of them, congratulations. There we go. I am starting to appreciate the bland and averageness of Alan Bowman, and I can't put my finger on it why. I just don't know. I have no idea why I'm starting to appreciate Alan Bowman so much.
Is it because he could throw the ball down the field a little bit and look competent kind of in the pocket where DJU doesn't?
I mean that's probably it. Okay. But I mean, I don't want to cast aspersions to just one guy who's ruining my life. But yeah, no, that was Florida State lost again to Memphis. We can talk about that later. But there were a lot of big things that happened this weekend in college football, and I will tell you, the A&M Florida game has so many things popping off of it that are interesting to talk about. One, and chief among them, is there is the Billy Napier is getting fired scuttlebutt going on right now. There's the rumors of like, oh, there's an emergency board meeting and all that. Well, none of that will happen. It's got to be, as you've seen with Florida State and all their squawking lately, every time that there's a board meeting, it's publicly called for. It has to have 24 hours notice or something like that. You know, it's online posted so everybody knows. There's no because they're not a private school, they have to adhere by state laws, right? Like Baylor can have a board meeting and then tell us about it later because they don't have to adhere to that, right? And that's happened many times where they have. But that scuttlebutt is starting, and it's not being shot down to the point of, oh no, this is way off. Like this is not happening, but the people that cover the Gators in Florida are hearing the buzz, and Billy Napier is not making it out of the season.
No, he's not. And I'm really surprised, honestly, like given the circumstances and him knowing like what the expectations were and why you would go out and just throw Graham Mertz in. Like, it's ridiculous, the loyalty that's going on there. I don't understand that. You have a perfect opportunity where you have DJ Lagway, who just finally rejuvenized your fan base the week before against Sanford when he threw for over 400 yards. You have him coming in to Texas, playing against A&M, where he's like, 75 miles away from where he grew up, 85 miles, 80, whatever, from Willis in the Houston area. It was a perfect opportunity to set everything up and put it out there and roll. They didn't. And the game was ugly, the rain and the weather. I understand that, not wanting to throw DJ out there in those circumstances, but at the same time, like, you have to win this game. And with all the smoke that goes around with, and it's all speculation and rumors. There's no truth to it. But the whole, where's Lagway going to go and hit the portal? If A&M's like the number one target that most people are, clamoring about, you had a perfect opportunity to throw him out here to shut it up. But they didn't. It's inevitable. He's going to be fired. Billy Napier is going to be fired. I don't know. I don't see how he makes it through the season, honestly. No. There's not very many wins coming up on the schedule. I think if you look at it from a Florida fan's perspective, now that we're, 3 weeks in, we're on week 4 now, there's probably some wins on there that you could see that a couple of weeks back weren't there. You just got to go out and take care of business. But there's no way they can make up the ground to keep Billy Napier aboard in Gainesville. It's just not.
No. And look, they've got Mississippi State this week, and that's a gift.
That's a winnable one.
That's a gift. But it's winnable, but, both of them are kind of in the same spot now, although Mississippi State absolutely got hammered by Toledo and Jason Candle, who I don't know if you've watched any of the top 5. Garrett, you're familiar with my top 5, right? You're familiar. You've seen most of them. Yeah, you produce most of them. Yep. But Jason Candle is a guy whose name I've been saying. He's a name I've been saying about kind of a next up thing, and going and beating an SEC team that badly. Woo.
No, that's a really good point, and he's going to get his. He's definitely going to find a good job among the Power Four, or whatever you want to put it. But to me, like, if you're Florida and you do make this decision to move on, it seems like they're in one of those weird places that you would have to get a name. You know what I'm saying?
I think so, and I'll just give a tease. I've got some names for the top 5 later on today, so I don't want to spoil that.
Right.
So I hate that you all have to wait until 5:50 today to see that, but
it's worth the wait.
It's worth the wait. It's worth the wait. I've got the first name on the list is one that I think is almost too good, given his current situation, their current situation, and where he came from.
Correct.
But I have different levels, although I might have to change it because I'll just tell you, I might put Jason Candle on it right now. But
that's why I was asking, because when you were saying that, I was put to it, I was just thinking about all that. I was like, well, Campbell, maybe. But the reason I was saying this too is because, like, you just went a lower class guy, right? Like this whole Sunbelt Billy thing. Do you want to go that same route again? I don't think Florida's going to do it. We see that with coaching hires all the time. You go the complete opposite direction of what you did before. You did it with Napier from Dan Mullen. So I think they kind of swing for the fences in this one. Might bite them in the ass, but I think they're probably going to swing for the fences.
I think so, and I have different variations of that. Here's the other thing comes off that, but everybody talks about DJ Lagway perhaps transferring to A&M next year. Well, A&M is about to find themselves right in the middle of a quarterback controversy because Marcel Reed was fantastic, and my opinion hasn't changed too much on Connor Wegman. I don't think Connor Wegman's playing the right offense for himself right now.
Right.
I think when you see that you have that quarterback run ability that is so ingrained into Colin Klein's offense, that's not his skill set, but it was certainly Marcel Reed's. I mean, you saw him just shake and bake a guy out of his shoes. He had the long run. He's got speed. He's got athleticism. He was accurate. He has no fear about him. He is a really poised young player, really poised. I remember hearing him talk. He has the timbre and tone of voice of like, well, you know, my teammates just really made it easy for me, and kind of like he wasn't jacked. He's got that nice even keel about him, and you know he's got to put some weight on. I mean, he's like all of 185 soaking wet, but he can boogie. He's a good athlete. This is, you know, I talked about the A&M quarterback curse kind of last week, where. Right. You know, the minute that they taste something that might be different, they're like, oh, this is the one. Yeah. And they're going to have a quarterback controversy. But that's a good, like, for A&M right now, I think that's a good problem to have as you get better and you have two guys you feel confident in that can run your offense. And I think eventually it's probably going to be Marcel Reed because of the athleticism and Connor Wegman's constant injuries. So, you know, I think that that's what they should do. So that's coming off that game. So if Marcel Reed's the quarterback of the future there, no offense to DJ Lagway, he's a higher rated player, but Marcel Reed, like, sometimes don't mess with a good thing. Like, this guy's pretty good, and see what you got from him for a year before you jump into that.
Well, I don't think there's any rush for Lagway to leave Florida at all either. I think he's going to stay, right? Like, because even before all this happened, he knew that Rashada was going to be there before that blew up and he left. That didn't hinder him from going. He probably got more money off of the Rashada deal blowing up. But if you could be the quarterback at Florida and you can make them a contender again, that's very important. And that's a big deal, and that's something that he can hang his hat on. Where, I mean, do you think there's more, I don't know how to word this, more incentive on being the quarterback at Florida per being the quarterback at A&M? Like, to me, there's the history, not really.
There's more. I mean, there's more glory.
Maybe that's what
historically,
I'm going for. Yeah.
At Florida. You know, when you've got Steve Spurrier, Danny Werfel, Tim Tebow. That's 3 Heisman Trophy winners at quarterback. You've got national championships.
That's probably what skews it right there.
All that is probably skews it. They've had some, and look, they've had some really good, like, first-round draft pick quarterbacks that were really good in college. Rex Grossman was a Heisman finalist. Jesse Palmer was started there too. Everybody knows Jesse Palmer, and he was good. He wasn't great, but Doug Johnson, Rex Grossman, Jesse Palmer, and they had a good run of good quarterbacks, college quarterbacks. The guys that could play some ball. So Chris Leak won a national title with them, even though like you watch the documentary, they talk about him like, oh, Chris Leak, he was
them, man, a few times.
Like, well, dude won, like he was the starter. Like they just couldn't wait to get Tebow in the game, which I understand because he was one of the best players of all time. But sorry, I gotta hold on. I gotta
wash that out, man.
I gotta wash that out. Okay, God, that was a Tebow compliment. It just doesn't taste right in my mouth. But look, I'm getting hooed at in the chat room.
Love it.
But DJ Lagway went to Florida. It was not lost on him that they were not good.
No,
like it's not like he got there and was like, hey, I thought, where's Percy Harvin? No. I mean, he knew. He's not some wide-eyed bumpkin who's like, I was told they was good here. No, he's not that guy. And he was enthusiastic about going there. He was enthusiastic about shooting some energy into the program. So before we transfer him out of Florida because Billy Napier is getting fired, let's see. And we don't know exactly when. Yes. This is us saying there is a
lot of smoke.
He would have to go on an absolute tear, which you watch them.
I don't see it happening.
Look, they've played all 3 of their games at home so far. Their home schedule is pretty front loaded right now, but they no showed against Miami. If not for the 47-minute weather delay, I think A&M beats them even worse because I think A&M by the end of that game was like, can we go home? Can we leave? This is like we've won already. Let's and Billy Napier is rotating series to series Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway.
Yeah,
and Graham Mertz played better on Saturday than DJ Lagway, but that's all to say that not that much better, and they still lost the game.
Right.
And he still threw a pick 6. Do
you? So my I guess my next question on this would be trying to think of the Florida schedule going forward. I guess if they lost, or I think they will lose this game. Do you think the UCF game would be the death blow? Just looking at how things are going right now, it's Miami, it's UCF that are really running the state of Florida, USF up there as well. But if the Gators lose to UCF, do you think that's kind of like it?
I'll throw this out there because it's Mississippi State this week, and then they hit their first bye.
Okay.
So if they lose at Davis Wade and Starkville this week, they're going to the bye. They might let him go. I think the only thing right now holding up is what is the date of the contract where that buyout drops a little bit.
Right.
So wherever that buyout drops or wherever the clause comes in that they can pay, maybe if it doesn't drop, but they can pay it out over a longer period of time than, because that's the thing now is the buyouts are still huge. They're not as Jimbo huge, but they're still huge. But there are provisions if you fire them at this point, you have to pay it all before the end of the year. But if you know you're going to fire them anyway and just let them kind of tread water until October 21st, then you can fire them on October 21st and pay it out over 3 years, whatever. So I'm not sure. I know there's some sort of clause. I'm not familiar enough with it to make any kind of definitive statement, but I think that's one of the things they're waiting out. But if they lose to Mississippi State this week after what happened to Mississippi State last week, you can just tell him to pack his stuff and go. But if they come off the bye week, lose at home again to UCF, then that game on October 5th, it's over.
Right.
Like, that's it. He might still be the coach, but if they come off and lose the next two,
There's no coming back from it.
there's no coming back from it, especially if they lose to UCF at home, which I don't know. Like, UCF and TCU is a game we're going to talk about in a second because it was amazing. Best game of the week, absolutely most fun game of the week. But I don't know where KJ Jefferson's gonna go. Like, I don't on against Florida and all that in Ben Hill Griffin. He's been there before.
He's been there.
So it's not going to surprise him. Plus, the atmosphere might be a little bit less.
Well, it's also he's not in a situation where he's got to go in and win the game for them like he was at Arkansas. Like, he was all they had. Like, if it wasn't Rocket Sanders, it was just him. Like, that was it. That's not the case at UCF.
Well, and if you see what R.J. Harvey did the other day, look, A&M has some good running backs. Le'Veon Moss, Amari Daniels, really good running backs. Good. They don't have an R.J. Harvey.
No.
And Le'Veon Moss had a great day against Florida running the ball. They've got problems stopping teams and running the ball, which is a good look. Florida's going to be probably favored in that game, more than likely, because of the three letters SEC.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen from UCF so far, that's a better team, and so, they have their UCF off this week. Then they welcome Colorado, which is a terrible matchup for the Buffaloes.
Oh, absolutely.
Because of the running game. Again, KJ Jefferson might not have to throw.
Yeah.
They could line up in the power I.
That's all I would do. I'd just run them down their throat the whole game.
If you're that confident going into the swamp after running the ball like that in a game that's going to mean so much to you, like that I think that's going to be the one that if that's the moment. And mostly because, and this is embarrassing to say because I'm in this group as well, but the three fan bases of the big three in Florida look down on UCF and USF.
Yeah, they do.
And I think those days need to be over, especially right now when it comes to UCF, who is in a power conference and has this, gigantic alumni base of which they only feel like they're kind of scratching the surface, getting the support from it. And so once they start winning, like, this game's a huge one. If you're a rich alumni who's like kind of in the water with Gus and the boys, and then they go into the swamp and win in a couple weeks, you might be like, you know what? I believe here.
See, that's funny that you said that because before you got there, I was thinking Gus Malzahn is probably the most comfortable coach in that situation because there's questions about Norvell. Like, I know that, and I don't think there really should be, honestly.
No, I've got a top 5 kind of this week on what's going on there. But
So I don't think there should be, like a fire him situation there. Napier definitely is. Cristobal is making up for it this season, like definitely making up for it. But if you look at the consistency that Gus has and what he's able to do and going to be able to do there, I think that shouldn't be a non-factor.
Yeah. I think there's something cooking there, especially if UCF can win against Colorado at home. They're going to be kind of rolling in it. And we'll see. Mississippi State just got absolutely shredded. Florida should be it's going to be favored in this game, but this is not that enticing of a matchup.
No, not at all.
This is two teams, one that's just starting out with their new head coach and one that's about to get rid of one, more than likely. So when we come back, I want to talk about UCF and TCU and here's what I learned about the Knights. They are gutsy, and they were not phased at halftime in that game.